The Sweet Life Bakery hadn't changed in 30 years. The same bell chimed as I pushed open the door, the same scent of vanilla and almond extract hung in the air, and the same Mrs. Rodriguez stood behind the counter, though her hair had gone from pepper gray to snow white. "I need to know," I said, placing the old newspaper clipping on the glass counter. "It's been 20 years. Please." She glanced at the headline, "Birthday Party Tragedy. 18 Children Hospitalized." No answers. Her weathered hands trembled as she reached for the article. "You're Tommy's mother," she whispered. "The blue cake with rocket ships. The one you warned me about." I leaned forward. "Why did you try to stop me that day?" She looked around the empty bakery, then flipped the open sign to closed. "Sit," she commanded, gesturing to a small table in the corner. "It's time you knew." 20 years earlier. The bakery had been bustling that morning, filled with Saturday customers picking up weekend treats. I waited patiently in line, watching Tommy press his nose against the display case, pointing at every colorful creation. "The rocket ship one, Mommy, it's perfect." The cake was a masterpiece of blue fondant and silver stars, topped with a toy rocket that could be removed and played with later. Mrs. Rodriguez had outdone herself, just as she had for every birthday cake in our neighborhood for the past 3 decades. "It's exactly what we ordered," I said, reaching for my wallet. "Tommy's going to." "No." Mrs. Rodriguez's hand shot out, gripping my wrist with surprising strength. "Don't take it, please." "Excuse me?" She glanced at Tommy, then lowered her voice. "Something's wrong. The candles, don't like them. Take another cake, any other cake." "Mrs. Rodriguez, we specifically ordered." "I'll refund your money. Double it. Just don't." "Is everything okay?" Another customer called from the line. Mrs. Rodriguez straightened, her professional smile snapping back into place. "Of course. Just discussing delivery options." She boxed the cake with shaking hands, movements stiff and mechanical. As she handed it over, she tried one last time. "Please, the candles." I dismissed her warning as the eccentricity of an aging baker. After all, what could possibly be wrong with birthday candles? The party started at 2 p.m. 18 children from Tommy's first grade class ran through our backyard, playing games and burning off sugar-fueled energy. My husband, Mike, manned the grill while I arranged presents and set up the cake. The candles were beautiful, silver and blue, matching the rocket ship theme perfectly. They came with a cake, tucked carefully in the box. "Cake time," I called, and children came running. They gathered around the table, Tommy in the center, face glowing with excitement. 7 candles for 7 years, plus 1 for good luck. The flames danced as we sang, casting strange shadows across the blue fondant. "Make a wish, buddy," Mike said, ruffling Tommy's hair. Tommy closed his eyes, concentrating hard. The other children leaned in, eager for their share of cake. He blew. The flames didn't go out. Instead, they grew, turning an eerie greenish blue. A sweet, strange smell filled the air, like cotton candy mixed with something metallic. "Mommy?" Tommy's voice sounded distant. "I feel funny." Then the screaming started. Children collapsed like dominoes. Some clutched their throats, others their stomachs. Tommy slumped forward, his face nearly hitting the cake before Mike caught him. I grabbed the phone, dialed 911, and watched helplessly as 18 children fought for breath in my backyard. Parents who had been chatting by the fence rushed to their kids, shouting names, checking pulses. The ambulances arrived 6 minutes later. By then, all the children were unconscious. The EMCs worked quickly, efficiently, loading small bodies onto stretchers while shouting medical terms I didn't understand. "What happened?" they asked. "The cake," I whispered. "They didn't even eat it, just the candles." The hazmat team arrived next. They sealed off the yard, took samples of everything: cake, candles, air, grass. Parents followed ambulances to 3 different hospitals while police asked questions I couldn't answer. Hours later, in the emergency room waiting area, my phone rang. "The children?" Mrs. Rodriguez's voice quavered. "Are they?" "Alive, all of them, but unconscious." "How did you know?" She hung up. The children recovered slowly over the next week. None remembered what had happened. The official investigation found nothing conclusive. No toxins, no gases, no explanations. The case was filed away as a medical mystery. We moved away 6 months later. Tommy had nightmares, and no one in the neighborhood looked at us the same way. Who could blame them? It was the birthday party that almost killed their children. Now, 20 years later, I sat across from Mrs. Rodriguez, watching her hands shake as she poured tea. "Why now?" she asked. "After all this time?" I pulled out another newspaper clipping, this one recent. "Because it's happening again. Different city, different baker, same story. 18 children at a birthday party all collapsed after the candles were lit." She closed her eyes. "They found them." "Found what? Who are they?" "The recipes." She opened a drawer behind the counter and pulled out an ancient-looking book. "My grandmother's warnings were right. Some things shouldn't be baked into this world." "Baked into?" "Why do you think people make wishes on birthday candles?" She leaned forward. "In the old countries, baking wasn't just about flour and sugar. It was about opening doors. Sometimes between kitchens and hearts, sometimes between other places." I stared at her, remembering the greenish-blue flames, the metallic smell, the way the children fell like puppets with cut strings. "What exactly was in that cake, Mrs. Rodriguez?" She opened the book, its yellowed pages filled with handwritten recipes and warnings in multiple languages. "The question isn't what was in the cake," she whispered. "The question is, what was trying to come through when your son made his wish?" The bell above the door chimed, making us both jump. A young mother entered, holding a child's hand. "We'd like to order a birthday cake," she said brightly. "Something special for my daughter's 7th birthday." Mrs. Rodriguez and I exchanged glances, 20 years of secrets hanging between us. "Of course," she said finally. "But perhaps no candles this time." Mrs. Rodriguez's ancient recipe book lay open between us, its pages filled with what looked like normal recipes at first glance. But between instructions for sponge cake and buttercream were warnings written in faded red ink. My grandmother called them doorway recipes, she explained, her finger tracing symbols hidden in the decorative borders. "Every culture has them, foods that thin the veil between worlds. Most are harmless, bringing luck or love. But some try to bring other things through." I finished, remembering the metallic smell, the strange shadows cast by those innocent-looking candles. "Your son's wish," she said carefully. "Do you remember what he wanted?" I thought back to that day, to Tommy's face scrunched in concentration. "He never told me. Children's wishes aren't supposed to be shared. Sometimes sharing is safer." She turned a page, revealing what looked like a recipe for my son's rocket ship cake. This design, it wasn't random. The stars, the placement, even the number of silver details. They formed a pattern. A pattern for what? A door. She pulled out old photographs of other cakes she'd made, seemingly innocent designs that, when looked at carefully, contained similar hidden configurations. "My family has been baking in this town for 3 generations, guarding against these patterns. When people request them unknowingly, we alter the design slightly, break the sequence." But Tommy's cake. I had no choice. The order came with very specific instructions. When I realized what it was, I tried to warn you. She closed her eyes. But they were watching. They? The ones who placed the order. She pulled out an old order slip. The handwriting was elegant, precise, and exactly matched the writing in the recent newspaper article about the new incident. 20 years, I whispered. They waited 20 years to try again. Because the children lived. She gathered her papers with trembling hands. They weren't supposed to survive. The wish was supposed to complete the exchange. A chill ran down my spine. Exchange? 18 children's lives for 18. She stopped, shaking her head. Some doors should stay closed. The bell above the door chimed again. A man in an expensive suit entered, his shoes clicking on the tile floor. "Mrs. Rodriguez," he smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Still baking, I see." She stiffened. "We're closed." "Oh, I'm out here for cake." He placed a familiar order form on the counter. "I'm here about a very special recipe, one that almost worked 20 years ago." I stood up, positioning myself between him and Mrs. Rodriguez. "Who are you?" "Let's say I'm a collector of rare recipes." His smile widened. "And your son's birthday cake was almost a masterpiece. Such a shame about the candles burning too slowly. Children are so unpredictable with their wishes." "The other incident," I said. "The recent one. That was you. Different baker, same recipe. But again, the timing was off." He sighed. Do you know how rare it is to find 18 pure wishes made at exactly the same moment? Children's birthday parties are perfect. All those young minds focus on one moment, one shared wish. For what? For them to come through. His eyes gleamed. The ones waiting on the other side of your son's wish. So hungry, so eager to trade places. Mrs. Rodriguez grabbed the recipe book, clutching it to her chest. Get out. The book, Mrs. Rodriguez. We can do this the easy way. The sound of a car backfiring made us all jump. Through the window, I saw a familiar face, my son Tommy, now 27, parking his car across the street. The man's smile vanished. Ah, the boy whose wish didn't quite work. How interesting. Tommy entered the bakery, his police badge glinting at his hip. Mom? Everything okay? The man stepped back, adjusting his tie. Just leaving. But we'll talk again, Mrs. Rodriguez. Some recipes are too valuable to stay hidden. He left, the bell chiming mockingly behind him. Mom? Tommy looked confused. What's going on? I looked at Mrs. Rodriguez, at her ancient book of recipes that could open doors between worlds, at the order slip that had almost cost 18 children their lives. We need to talk, I said. About your 7th birthday, about the wish you made. I remember, he said quietly. I wished everyone could stay together forever. I didn't know it would. Attract their attention. Mrs. Rodriguez finished. Wishes for eternal togetherness are powerful. Perfect for opening doors that should stay closed. Tommy touched the badge on his hip. Is that why I became a cop? I've spent 20 years trying to understand what happened that day. And now it's happening again. I said, showing him the newspaper. Different city, same pattern. He studied the article, his detective's eyes catching details I'd missed. The baker who made this cake, she disappeared 3 days ago. Mrs. Rodriguez clutched her book tighter. They're getting bolder. Then we'll be ready, Tommy said, because this time we know what to watch for. Outside, the street lamps flickered as darkness fell. Somewhere in the city, 18 more children were recovering from wishes that almost came true. And in a bakery that had guarded its secrets for 3 generations, we began to plan how to stop it from happening again. Because some recipes weren't meant to be followed, some wishes weren't meant to be granted, and some doors were meant to stay firmly closed. The next 3 months were a blur of late nights and coded recipes. Tommy set up surveillance around Mrs. Rodriguez's bakery while I helped her transfer her grandmother's warnings into a more secure digital format. The man in the suit never returned, but his presence lingered like the aftertaste of bitter almonds. Then the orders started coming in. Look at the patterns, Mrs. Rodriguez said, spreading out 5 different cake requests from 5 different cities. The same design elements, just rearranged, like a key being turned in different locks. Tommy plotted the locations on a map. They're creating a pentagram, each party scheduled exactly 1 week apart. 5 parties, 5 doors, Mrs. Rodriguez whispered. They're not trying to open just one anymore. They're trying to create a gateway. I studied the orders. Each requested 18 children's attendance, specific candle placements, and exact timing for the wishes. We can't stop all 5 parties, Tommy said. We don't have enough people. We don't need to stop the parties. Mrs. Rodriguez opened her book to a page I hadn't seen before. We need to change the recipe. The page showed what looked like a normal birthday cake, but the notes in the margins spoke of protection, of wishes turned back on themselves, of doors that could be sealed forever. A counter recipe, she explained. My grandmother used it once in 1943 when others tried the same thing. But it requires what? The willing sacrifice of a wish that almost worked. She looked at Tommy. Your wish from 20 years ago. The one that kept 18 souls tethered here when they were meant to be exchanged. Tommy touched the scar on his temple. The only physical reminder of that day. What do I need to do? Return to where it happened. Make another wish, but this time to close what you accidentally started to open. The house was sold years ago, I protested. I know the new owners, Tommy said quietly. They've been trying to sell it for years. No one stays long. Kids keep having nightmares about birthday parties. 2 weeks later, we stood in our old backyard. The swing set was gone, the garden overgrown, but the patio where the cake table had stood remained. Mrs. Rodriguez had baked a new cake, simple white frosting, no decorations except for a single candle in the center. Around us, sage burned in copper bowls and salt lined the property boundaries. Remember, she instructed Tommy, when you make your wish, think about closing, not opening. About endings, not beginnings. And the other parties? I asked. Already handled. Tommy smiled grimly. Food safety inspectors are shutting down those bakeries tonight. Anonymous tips about health code violations. It won't stop them forever. No, Mrs. Rodriguez agreed. But it will stop them long enough for this to work. The sun set, casting the same shadows I remembered from 20 years ago. Tommy lit the candle, its flame burning pure and normal, no greenish-blue tint this time. Ready? Mrs. Rodriguez asked. Tommy nodded, closing his eyes. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of sage and something else. That same metallic sweetness from years ago. He blew. The flame didn't go out. Instead, it grew, reaching toward the darkening sky. But this time, instead of children collapsing, the ground itself seemed to shudder. It's working, Mrs. Rodriguez said. The doors, they're closing. The flame turned silver, then white, then exploded in a shower of sparks that hung in the air like frozen stars. Each one twinkled and faded, taking with it the metallic smell until only sage remained. Tommy stumbled, and I caught him. Did it? Yes. Mrs. Rodriguez was already wrapping the remains of the cake in black cloth. The wish doors are sealed. Not forever. Nothing is forever, but long enough. How will we know? She pointed to the sky. Where moments before stars had hung in familiar patterns, new configurations glowed briefly before returning to normal. The patterns are broken. They'll have to find new recipes, new designs. It will take them years. And the book? I asked. Going somewhere safe. She patted her bag. Some recipes need to be forgotten. Later that night, over coffee in Mrs. Rodriguez's kitchen, Tommy finally told us his original wish. I didn't wish for everyone to stay together, he admitted. I wished for the power to protect people. That's why I became a cop. That's why I survived. The wish was already coming true, just not the way they wanted it to. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled. Wishes have their own magic, separate from their recipes. Sometimes they protect us from ourselves. And sometimes, I added, watching my son, not the scared 7-year-old, but a man who had turned an almost tragedy into a life of service. They show us who we're meant to be. Outside, the street lamps cast normal shadows, and the stars followed their usual paths across the sky. Somewhere, a man in an expensive suit was discovering that his carefully planned doors would never open. And in a small bakery that had guarded its secrets for generations, 3 people raised their coffee cups in a silent toast. To wishes that heal instead of harm, to doors that stay closed, and to recipes that would never be baked again. Because sometimes the sweetest endings come from knowing which ingredients to leave out.